For more on this, we are now joined by SABC News reporter Lerato Fekisi, and she joins us now from Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape. Lerato, thank you so much for your time. I mean, we saw this arrest take place early this morning. We understand it's for flouting immigration laws. What else do we know about this matter?
Absolutely, Mbali, and I think it's fair for us to go back to 2017 when Omotoso was arrested for his case of 32 charges relating to racketeering, rape and sexual assault. And it's also important for us to also differentiate between the criminal charge for which he's been acquitted for, and then also juxtapose that with now the charge he has now. So in 2017, Mbali, he was arrested, but during the time of his arrest, Mbali, it was also found that Omotoso was using what applied to be in the country using a fraudulent general worker a passport, and the Home Affairs then declared that this was actually a fraudulent visa that he was using in the country. And then Omotoso tried to then ask Home Affairs to extend his general worker visa, to which they said there's absolutely no ways because it was fraudulent. He then applied and asked that this be reconsidered, and he was declared then as a prohibited person because he was in the country illegally. And then the case obviously went on, which was now a criminal case focusing on his 32 charges, to which he's been acquitted for almost a month ago. And today we found the Minister of Home Affairs saying that although Omotoso had put an application to the court for the decision of him being declared a prohibited person to be reversed, the court said it's not in their right as the court to declare him a prohibited person or not, but in fact it must be the Department of Home Affairs, if not actually the Minister, who declares this. So what we saw today in Mbali was a combination of a reviewing process of an application made by Omotoso from the Home Affairs, and then ultimately the Department of Home Affairs, and then to the Minister, who then ultimately made a decision that she has decided that Omotoso is a prohibited person in the country, and by virtue of that he's illegally in the country, and by virtue of that he must be deported back to Nigeria.
Lerato, is he being unfairly targeted? And of course I ask this because of the case in which was since fumbled by the state in Gqeberha.
I think it's not fair for us to say that he's been unfairly targeted, because yes, like I said earlier on, that there's two things we need to focus on here. There's a criminal side for which he's been acquitted for 32 charges, but that does not erase Mbali at all that he was declared a prohibited person because he was illegal in the country. So him being acquitted on criminal charges doesn't take the fact away that he is in the country illegally, and by virtue of that he must be charged, and that is why he's appearing in court on Monday. So it's not fair to say that because now they've found charges against him which relate to contravening the Immigration Act, to say he's been unfairly charged, because if a person is in the country illegally, he must be punished or charged for that, and that's what we're seeing now. So yes, criminally he was acquitted, criminally he was not found guilty, criminally he is accused and was accused of all cases that he faced in terms of the sexual assault, the racketeering, the human trafficking. But there is the issue of him being in the country illegally. There's the issue of him being declared a prohibited person by the Minister of Home Affairs, and by virtue of that there is now a charge placed against him where the Minister says, according to him being declared a prohibited person, which is not a violation of his human rights, but also something that the country must do, because if people are in the country illegally, they must be persecuted whether or not they are pastors, televangelists, ministers, prime ministers. But if you're in the country illegally, you must face the plight of the law, and that's what we're seeing now.
And what is the likelihood of seeing Timothy Omotoso being deported come his court appearance on Monday?
It's unlikely, and we can't obviously make assumptions whether he's going to be deported on Monday. We'll have to wait until Monday. But the Minister of Home Affairs has declared him a prohibited person, and she has said in her statement that Home Affairs released today that by virtue of him being declared a prohibited person, he's illegal in the country and then must be deported. The time frames, when and how it's going to happen, if and when it's going to happen, we're not sure. But the Home Affairs is standing on their stance that he's not supposed to be here, and if anything, he must now face deportation. But how that's going to happen and how the process is going to unfold, we'll have to wait and see what happens in court when he goes to East London court on Monday.
And I mean, you'd remember that some of his supporters are really staunch supporters of Timothy Omotoso. What are they saying about the latest arrest?
Absolutely disgusted with the law, absolutely disappointed with the law, because obviously criminally they know that he was acquitted for all charges and they see him as a free man, and that's why they had put out a poster that Omotoso is going to be holding crusades in East London because we're acquitted on all charges, and by virtue of that he is allowed to hold crusades, he's allowed to live or perform whatever task he was doing before as a pastor, before he was had allegations against him. So they really have seen him as a free man, as a non-guilty man, as a man who's supposed to live his life now because the state failed to prove without reasonable doubt that he has a case against him, or failed to prove that the allegations were true against him. So they're very disappointed, because if anything, for them, Omotoso must carry on being the pastor they love. He must carry on preaching, he must carry on evangelizing, he must carry on doing the miracles or so-called miracles that they speak about. So they obviously are very disappointed, and if anything, they are asking that he be released from prison. If anything, they are saying that there's a prosecution against his character, against his integrity, against who they believe is their man of God, and they are saying that this is just an unfair treatment on a man who is being acquitted criminally, but yet still faces charges of contravening the Immigration Act.
Lerato, thank you so much for that update. That's SABC News reporter there from Gqeberha, Lerato Fekisi, giving us an update on the rearrest of Timothy Omotoso.